Music theory using Excel. Chords named by mode and modal half steps, this time building from the Mixolydian mode, in essence making Mixolydian chords. So get ready and some coffee, because you ain't never seen rockin' unless you excel at rockin', and to excel at rockin', you need Microsoft Excel. Otherwise, you don't know what you're doing, man. You don't even know what you're doing. We are in Excel. If you don't have access to this workbook, that's okay, because we basically built this from a blank worksheet but started in a prior presentation. So if you want to build this entire worksheet from a blank sheet, you could begin back there or just construct as we go from here. If you do have access to this workbook, though, 4 tabs down below: fretboard, example, practice, blank, the fretboard tab having a simulated fretboard that we will refer back to, the example tab having the finished product, the answer key, in essence. The practice tab has pre-formatted cells, so you could practice the practice problem with less Excel formatting. But if you don't have any of that, that's okay, because we're working in the blank tab, where we started with a blank worksheet building from scratch, and we'll be continuing to work in the blank part of the worksheet, practicing both our Excel skills and our music theory skills at the same time, remembering that in actuality, they're just one and the same. They're one and the same. All right, let's go on to the fretboard to get an idea of what we will be doing. We're building chords in the most intuitive way possible, bridging the chord concepts to the current chord construction so that we can make our chords as seamlessly as possible to help us map out the fretboard, but also bridge it to the current chord construction so we can easily name and communicate with others. Why are we doing this? Well, we have to go down to our general concept. Once again, we want to drill it into our mind that the fretboard is a map of the territory, similar to the globe, and it has 7 continents on it. Not 12, 7 continents that are destination locations. The other ones are like the oceans. They're the non-destination. You hit them, but you go through them to get to the continents, because we're human beings. We need land. We need land at least sometime. So we go through them to get to the continents. And if we take our perspective from space, similar to us looking down on the world of the fretboard, like the earth, rotates around. It rotates around, and we have to name our vantage point that we're looking at the fretboard on so we can find the proper location of the proper continent we're trying to find. And we name those by the notes of the alphabet, 1 through 12. So if I say I'm on a C major collection of notes, then I know where the shape is. If I'm say I'm on a C sharp collection of notes, then the whole thing would shift up. The whole thing shifts up, just like all the continents shift as they rotate around from our perspective in space. Therefore, when we name the continents, I don't name them by note names. No, I name them by the continent names that are permanent, that being like the Nashville number system, absolute mode numbers 1 through 7. And we can give them the names, which are the modes. Modes are a thing. They stay continent. They stay constant. That's what we want. Now remember the problem. Terminology throws us off, in part because of the piano. We can't blame everything on the piano, but the piano is not symmetrical, so it has its own concerns with how you're going to deal with the fact that you got the black keys and the white keys and it's messing things up. We don't have that at all on the fretboard. So this whole thing is a little bit different. Although I still think this works on the piano as well, but the scale degree thing it's not working for me. The scale degree not working for me. What should we do instead? We should be naming based on the point and measuring from that point, both when we build our distance measures, meaning our intervals, as well as our chords. When I say the chord from the perspective of a C, the 1, 4, 5, then I should see it not as a major, but a 1, 4, 5. They're different. They make a similar triad, but they don't expand past the triad to be the same. Therefore, it would be better if you saw them as something different. It would also be better if you go to the minor key, if you didn't make the minor key the 1. It's the 6. Why would that be better? Because then you could keep all of the continent names the same. You can use simple math. The whole fretboard is maneuverable. It's beautiful, right? And the only reason we can't do that is because of the naming conventions get all wacky. All right. So the chord names are based on the major key. So what are we going to do? We're gonna do it the right way, like the easy way, which should be the scientifically best way, and then we'll deal with all the bureaucratic stuff that makes it all complicated, which is the way the current system is lined up. All right, and so right now we're going in the Mixolydian mode, which is kind of like the bluesy mode. So they actually made a whole set of chords that are bluesy chords. They call them 7 chords. So the blues guys were the cool cats, right? They came in and the jazzy people, and they're like, we need Mixolydian stuff because you guys are all on the major thing, but Mixolydian is cool. It's got a whole vibe to it you're missing, man. So they're like, so then they made a whole like chords on the 7 chords, but they still had to kind of pretend like modes don't exist instead of just calling it a Mixolydian chord, because the mainstream people they still want to pretend like modes aren't a thing. They're trying to erase modes. So we're going to go over here and we're just going to say, hey, modes exist. Modes exist. We don't need to call them the Nashville number system. Those are modes. Those are modes. We can say it now. Like the mainstream media has broken, the back has broken on their stranglehold to terminology. So now we can say the truth. Modes are a thing. All right, so we built in the same diatonic key. We did the Ionian, the Dorian, the Phrygian, the Lydian. We're on Mixolydian. Mixolydian, the cool like bluesy mode, is a major mode, but it has that minor 7 in it. That's what makes it cool. That's what makes it cool, man. So, and it's kind of minory that way. All right. So then what would be the normal, if you just made a 3-note triad, normally it would be a G major, right? So now we've got 3 G majors, the 1, 4, and the 5. I mean, not G major. We have 3 majors. The 1, 4, 5 look the same. And you might say, well, that would be easier just to call it the same because it has the same shape. It does, but you already know it has the same shape because it's the 1, 4, 5. And we know those all have the same kind of shape. It would be better to know that although those 3 notes have the same shape, they're on a different location within the entire diatonic framework on the fretboard, and if we expand the shape, it will be different. So it would be better to just say, no, let's call it a 4 chord, which is different, which is, I'm going to call it an XG2, which is Mixolydian X, because the M would look like a major or minor. So I'm going to say Mixolydian G2. The 2 is 2, that's a distance term, 2 modal whole steps plus the root, which is G. So we're on the G, or Mixolydian, plus 2 modal whole steps for a 3-note chord. And if it was the root, we can make it a capital and give us more dynamicism in our naming convention, very nice, cleanly, and easily. So what would this look like? If we start on the Mixolydian, it would be the 1 from a scale degree, 1, 3, 5. 1, 3, 5, right? But to do that, I have to name that the 1. And I don't want to name it the 1. I want to say, no, look, we're just going to take every other note from that node, which is the 4 node, the Mixolydian node. So it goes Mixolydian, Locrian, Dorian. Those are the actual locations that we're putting our fingers on. We're like God over here. We're putting our fingers on 3 continents at the same time. It's crazy. So you wouldn't think that would be possible, but because that's just an analogy. The analogy only goes so far, But let's go over here and say this is going to be Mixolydian. So we're going to say it's 0, 2, and 4 are the distances. We're going to start on the Mixolydian, the 4, which happens to be a G for us, and then we're going to go a modal whole step up, which is 2 modal half steps, and then another modal whole step up, which is 4 modal half steps from the 0 point, the node we're on. What would that look like from a scale degree standpoint? Well, then we'd have to make the actual mode, which is mode number 5, the 1, which is stupid, but okay, if we did that, then it would be 1 plus 2 and then 1 plus 4. So we would say the chord is constructed with a 1, 3, 5 if we make the Mixolydian the 1. But if you do that, then you can't name the Mixolydian chord then by an absolute modal naming system, which is why would you want to do that? No one knows what that is. Well, they should, because you can move it. You can move it. right? So like if I convert these to the letters, it's going to be less movable. Now you could move the relative positions here, but then again, you have to choose a different numbering system for the 7 different modes. But what I'd like to do is say, hey, look, the 1, it's not the 1. I'm starting on the 4. I'm starting on the 4. I'm not going to on the 5. Sorry, I'm starting on the 5. I'm not going to rename it. That's the point I'm trying to get to. So I'm not going to rename it. And if I start on the 5, then I just go up by 5 plus 2. Wait, not there. Right here. 5 plus 2. And then we would just go up. Stop trying to help me, Excel. And then we'd say 5 plus 4. It's like the government. We're trying to help you. You are causing me nothing but stop helping. Stop helping before I have to smack you. Because you're not helping at all. I've noticed you're not helping at all. So if we copy that and we paste it down here, Mixolydian, Locrian, and Dorian. Okay. So this is going to be government coming up in my business, acting like they're helping. They're making everything worse. Making everything worse. Anyways, I don't know why I'm getting sidetracked. Let's make this blue and bordered too. All right. So now we can name it by saying the 3 notes of the Mixolydian is going to be a 5, 7, 2. And those notes are the same as the Nashville number system. We didn't change it, even if we're playing in Mixolydian. And we should be able to name that as the nodes that are in it, which is a Mixolydian, Locrian, and Dorian. That's what the Nashville number system is naming. They just didn't like they just didn't like the Greek name. So they said, hey, look, I don't like the way your name is because I don't know Greek. So I'm just going to make you a number. And so they made the Greek, poor Greek person was like, dude, but my name is Mixolydian. It's like, no, you're number 5 now. And so I feel like we should respect the name and bring it back and be able to say, no, I can memorize your name if I work on it. I don't want to just call you a number. That's not nice. I mean, we could do both, but I should at least know what your name is. All right, what if we made a 4-note Mixolydian chord? Under the current naming convention, we'd call that a G wait a sec, hold on a second. We would just call it a G7, wouldn't we? We'd call it G7. Now note that looks wonky right there, doesn't it? Because we had the 1 was a major, and then the 4 is major, and then the 5 you would expect it to be major, and it was, over here we had a G major. But now when I add the 7, you're dropping the major, and the idea here is that, well, the Mixolydian has a flat 7, so they kind of made up another bucket you can kind of think of, meaning we started with just the major chord construction, and then you had the minor, and then the blues and jazz guys were like, hey dude, we need something for the Mixolydian. So what if we just drop the major and minor and we just put a number by it instead? Then we're going to assume that has a flat 7, like a major intervals kind of with a flat 7. Okay, kind of weird, but it would be clearer if you just said, hey, look, this is a Mixolydian chord. So you could call it just like an X G3, which would be Mixolydian G chord. It would be a 4-note chord because it would be the root plus 3 modal whole steps. And I don't need to say it's the 7th from a scale degree standpoint. I just say, hey, look, you know how to do it. You've got your 7 notes. You just skip every other note, and you need to start on the root and go up 4 modal whole steps, which there are 3 modal whole steps, which is a 4-note chord. And then we could, if it was the root, we can make it a capital like that. So what would it look like? If we're on the G over here, from a scale degree standpoint, would be here. We're going to say that's the 1, 3, 5, and then there's the 7, right? 1, 3, 5, 7. Okay, but it's a flat 7. What does that mean? It's got a distance that is 10 notes away instead of 11 notes away. We'll get to those distances later, but you wouldn't even need to know the distances really if you just realize, it's good to know the distances, but if you're just intuitively playing, you're just like, hey, I don't really need to know that. I just need to know that I'm adding that node into the system from a pattern standpoint, which would be easier to do if you tell us that that's the Mixolydian location on the fretboard by naming the chord that says it's the Mixolydian chord. That would make it easier. Otherwise, like, it doesn't really indicate what is happening from a playing standpoint. We're going to say it's a 2-4, a 0, 2, 4, 6. Those are going to be the distances from the node that we start on, which is the Mixolydian node or 5 chord. Then we're going to go up by 2, up by 4, up by 6, or up by 2, 2, 2. And then we're going to say, all right, what if we did a scale degree system? Well, if we made what was the 5 now the 1 from a scale degree, now we're going to say it's 1 plus 2 and 1 plus 4 and 1 plus 6. So we would say, look, now it's a 1, 3, 5, 7. 1, 3, 5, 7. The problem with that is that I can't really name the nodes ultimately, because now I've renamed the node number 1. I've renamed the node that's number 5 from a Nashville music system to the 1. So I can't use simple math to find the continents on the fretboard that would be universal and movable. That's a problem. That's a problem, okay? Let me show you what I mean, because what I'd like to do is say, look, we're going to start on the Mixolydian, okay? I'm not going to make that the 1. That's the Mixolydian. And then I could go up from the Mixolydian by 2, and I would be on the 7, which would be the Locrian. And then I can go up from the 7 by 2, or the Mixolydian up by 4, and then I have to subtract 7, because there's only 7 of them. And I would be around to the 2, which is the Dorian. And then I could say the 5 plus the 6 minus 7 gives us 4, Lydian. So if I copy this, I can say, look, it's the Mixolydian to the Locrian to the Dorian to the Lydian. Oh, wait a sec. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So that would be it. So now I can name it. I can name it with a universal system. This is what a 4-note Mixolydian chord is. Trivia question. Trivia question. How could you name a 4-note, the points in a 4-note Mixolydian chord, which would be universal and transferable to all 12 different keys? Well, you don't answer. You don't name it by the letters, you name it by the modal points, like the Nashville music system, which would be 5, 7, 2, 4. And then if you want to give them a name, instead of treating them shabbily by not recognizing that they have names, you'd say, look, it's the Mixolydian, Locrian, Dorian, Lydian. It's always that way. That's how you make that's how you make a 4-note Mixolydian chord, and it works no matter what key that you're playing in, and it's movable, and therefore better. It's better, objectively better. Mucho mejor. Mucho mejor. I'm not just talking mejor, talking mucho mejor. All right? Mucho. All right. Anyways, let's do the next one. What if we had a 5-note chord? Then that would be a G. We have to call it a G9. Again, it looks funny because you would think it would be a G major, because we had the 1, 4, and the 5 should be a G major, and it was when it was only a 3-note chord. But then when I moved to a 4-note chord, it had a 7 without the major, and now when you go to a 5-note chord, it has a 9, and a 9 isn't even in the scale degrees, because the scale degrees only go up to 7, because there's only 7 notes in a scale, so the 9 must be equivalent to like the even note, which is the 2. And since it doesn't have a major, I guess we have to assume that that means that like the 7 is still flat, even though the 7 isn't indicated in the name, but we're going to assume that the 7 is flat, but the 9 has not been affected by the fact that we flattened the 7, so it's still a major 9. See, it makes perfect. So that it's a little convoluted. I mean, you could probably just call it like a Mixolydian G4 chord, right? Which would mean, look, it's a Mixolydian chord with 5 notes in it, meaning you start on the G or on that node, and then you go up 4 modal whole steps in the scale that you know that you're in, because you know the shape on the guitar, and that'd be, or on the piano too. It'd be easy to do. That would be a better way. And you could make it, if it was the root, a capital, right? So let's go over and see what a 9 chord from a scale degree standpoint. What would that look like? We just skip every other note from the Mixolydian. That would be the 1, 5, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is that what I was on? Yeah, 9. 1, 3, 5, 7, no, 9. There. Okay, and then the 9 is equivalent to the 2, right? All right, but so that would be it. So let's go back on over. And so now, let's say if I wanted to list out how to map this thing out, we'd say, all right, we're on the Mixolydian. And stop helping me, Excel. Stop trying to help me. I know you're trying to help, but you're not. You're not helping. It's trying to do stuff before I tell it to do it. What do you think, your AI? You think your AI is smarter than I am? You don't know what I'm thinking. You don't know what I'm thinking, Excel, okay? Just let me do my thing here. Stop trying to help me. Okay, so we're gonna say you start on the root and then you go up by 2 and then another 2 and then another 2 and then another 2. So if we change that to scale degrees, then we'd start on the 1, and then it would be 1 plus 2, and then 1 plus 4, and then 1 plus 6, and then the 1 plus 9. So from a scale degree standpoint, we'd say, okay, we have the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, but the 9 is a made-up scale degree because it's really kind of like equivalent to the 2. All right, but what's the problem with that? If you do it that way, then you can't name a 5-note Mixolydian chord in a universal way, which I'd like to do by saying, hey, look, if I'm on the Mixolydian, I'm not going to change the name to a 1. That is what we call in academia, that's what we call stupid. Okay, so no, what I'm going to do instead, so we're not stupid, so we don't be stupid, is maybe academia is stupid. But still, we're going to say it's going to be 5 plus 2. And see, it's trying to help me again. Don't do that, all right? Let me do it myself. It's part of the process. And then it's going to be 5 plus 4. And then let me do the whole thing first. I'll bring that down. And then 5 plus 6. And then 5 plus 8. And then we'll bring it down. So this needs to be brought down, minus 7. This needs to be brought down. You need to be brought down. I don't need to be brought down. The humbler is coming after you. He's going to humble you. The humbler. All right. So we call then, what could we call that? Then we're going to call it a 5, 7, 2, 4, 6. Those are the nodes that you hold down, which is the Mixolydian, Locrian, Dorian, Lydian, and Aeolian. Aeolian. That's how you can say it universally. All right, so let's do the next one. What if it's a 6-note chord? I'm just changing my cheat sheet over here. If it's a 6-note chord, then what would we call that then from a normal chord? Notice Mixolydian works quite well once they kind of basically renamed it to be a Mixolydian mode. You just call it a G11. It doesn't look right because you would think it would be a major, right? So because you have the 1, 4, and you would think the 5 would be a major, but those blues guys, those sneaky blues guys were able to put in the terminology that actually means a mode and sneak it by the bureaucrats, so we can actually play some bluesy stuff. And it got its own naming convention because they didn't actually call it Mixolydian, you know? So they were able to, like it looks kind of similar. So it worked. So they got it passed. They got the paperwork through. So again, so now what are we going to do? We're going to say, okay, that basically means it's not a major, it's not a minor, it's in its own bucket. So that means we're still going to say that means it has a flat 7 for some reason, but the 9 is still not flat. It's a major, and then like the 11 is not flat. That's what it means. So whenever you have the number right next to the letter, it means like the 7's flat, but like nothing else changes. Okay, well that's kind of convoluted. Why don't you just call it a Mixolydian, like G5 chord, meaning it's a 6-note Mixolydian chord, 6-note Mixolydian G chord. Right, that would be easier because then you would know it's in Mixolydian. You wouldn't have to hide it. Okay, it's like trying out for the team and then hiding hiding your stats, right? That's not, no, you put it on transparency is good. We need transparency, okay? So we're gonna, and if you wanted to make it the root, you can make it a capital. Okay, so let's see what that, from a scale degree standpoint, let's go over here from a scale degree. Now let me copy this down one more time, because I think we're gonna run out of room. And I don't want to run out of room. I want to keep running even past the room that we have. I keep running because Jenna told me to. So we're going to say, if this is a scale degree, that's the 1, that's the 3, that's the 5, that's the 7, that's the 11. No, that's the 9. And there's the 11. So the 11 is equivalent to the 4. Is what it would be, but no, now we call it the 11 because the 4 would have been smaller than the 7, and we want to indicate that we're still going to add all of the notes, so they had to call it an 11. But we don't need to do that. We could just assume, no, you're just going to take every other note and go around the circle when you need to go around the circle because there's only 7 continents in the alphabet, and conveniently in our world, they're just going around the block. They're all in a circle. Okay, so then we're going to say this is going to be Mixolydian, a Mixolydian, and then see, do not do that. Do not do that. They're trying to give, it's like the government's trying to give me money, but all it does is cause me problems. I don't want your money, all right? Take your money and blow it, spend it somewhere else. Get out of my face with your money. All right, I'm going to say this is, okay, so now I'm going to say this is going to be 1. Oh, see, now it's doing it again. Don't do that. See, it's just making it confusing. 1 plus 2, and this is going to be 1 plus 4, and then 1 plus 6, and this is 1 plus 8, and this is 1 plus 10. So from a scale degree standpoint, we're going to say it's the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. And the 9 and the 11 are equivalent to the 2 and the 4. But you can't give a universal name that way, which I'd like to do because I'd like to say, look, we're starting on the Nashville number system number 5, mode number 5. And if we do that, then I can give a name to all the nodes in the chord that is universally transferable. Maybe not as easily on the piano. I get it. The piano, you have a little bit different of a thing happening there. But, I mean, on the fretboard, come on. I mean, come on, man. Come on, man. So 5, this is 5 plus 2 is 7. And then this is going to be 5 plus 4. And then this is going to be 5 plus 6. And then this is going to be 5 plus 8. And this is going to, wait a sec, is that right? No. No. This is going to be 5 plus 8, no, and then it tried to do that again, 5 plus 8, see it's trying to do it again, and then this is going to be 5 plus 10. I think I got that right. Okay, and then I'm going to bring these down, so 9 minus 7, and then 11 minus 7, and then 13 minus 7, and then 15 we might have to go down 2 here, so minus 7, and then I got to go minus 7 again because we took a long distance. So that, I think, hopefully I got that right. That's going to be a Mixolydian, Locrian, Dorian, Lydian, Aeolian, and Ionian. We're holding down all those continents. The 5s from a Nashville number music, the 5, 7, 2, 4, 6, 1. Now you can't actually do that because our hand's not big enough, right? So we're limited there, but we can at least get that last one in there possibly, and then we'll drop some of the middle ones. Now, if you want to name that more precisely, we could, now that we have a more streamlined naming system, but we'll get to that later. Some of the fancy things we can do if we have a more simple naming convention, then we can do more fancy stuff to it, which won't get as convoluted because we didn't start with convolution. You only add convolution when you need to. This isn't Washington. We don't just add convolution just because you want to make things confusing. So we're going to say this is, so what if it's a 7-note chord? Then we call it a G13 because, again, those jazzy, bluesy guys just basically made up a Mixolydian thing and snuck it in there. So it's not a major, not a minor, because you would think it would be a major 13. But no, they just call it a G13 without a major or minor, which again just kind of means that the 7 is flat, but nothing else is, because everything else is going to be the 9, 11, and 13 is still major. So everything's major, but it's got a flat 7. They just made up a whole new thing. We don't need to make up a whole new thing. We just need to recognize the reality of modes, people. Modes are a thing. So if we could have just called it like an X G6 or something, meaning it's a 7-note Mixolydian G chord, right? And that would mean that it's got the root that we're on, the G in this case, plus modal 6 modal half steps from there. And if it was the root, we can make it a capital, because now we can add a little bit more complexity because it's a less complex chord. You might say, well, look, this is pretty less complex. Yeah, because they made a whole nother category for it, right? They basically did what I'm saying here, right? They made a whole nother category, but let's just recognize the category is the Mixolydian mode. That's all I'm saying. Let's just recognize what it is, like what it really is. So this is going to be the Mixolydian, and then so if we made this long chord, it would be a 0, and then up by 2, up by another 2, up by another 2, up by another 2, up by another 2, and up by another 2. So then if we made it a scale degree, we'd have to rename the 5 to the 1. It just did it. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and let it do it for me that time. All right. See, now I'm getting lazy. This is when they get you. This is when they get you. The government gets you. I let them give me money, and but now they won't let me get out of the hole. They won't let me out. So, but now we're going to say this is the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. 9, 11, and 13 equal to the 2, 4, and then the 6. All right. But I'd like to say, no, I want this to start on the 5, right? Because then I could say it's the 5 plus 2, tab. Okay, not that time. And then 5 plus 4, and then 5 plus 6, tab, and then 5 plus 8, tab. Wait, don't do that. Don't do that. And then 5 plus 10. See, you let it help you one time, and then it tries to run your life. Then it tries to run your life. It's like, okay, no more of this. All right, and then I'm going to go into here and say this is going to be minus 7, and then this is minus 7. And let's say this is minus 7 and minus 7 one more time. Uno vez más, minus 7. And then we got to go 7 again, minus 7, and then I think this is minus 7. Okay, hopefully I have that right. So I'm going to copy this down. Paste. So if we made the whole scale, we would be holding down the 5, because that's the root. 5, 7, 2 from a natural number system, 4, 6, 1, 3 chord. And if we give them their proper names, instead of just giving them a number, which isn't nice, it would be the Mixolydian, Locrian, Dorian, Lydian, Aeolian, Ionian, Phrygian modes. That's how it would be. All right. Yeah, Greek people, like if they're actually the Greek people are nice once you learn their names. It's hard at first, but you know that's the thing to do. You got to learn you have to take the time to learn the name, and then you can read the Iliad in its original text and language.